Marble.
So is it outpatient? So they said they got everything? Yeah, that's a problem. They don't know why. Is any medication or anything they get? Is that bad?
We'll call to order the Carver Heights Montclair Area CRA meeting. Today is Monday, October 28th. It is 5 p.m. If you'd please rise for the invocation and pledge. Heavenly Father, we ask that you watch over this group tonight, and that you help us make good decisions for the city of Leesburg. We do that in your name. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let's find. I take it everyone has had an opportunity to look at the minutes. Could we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Or roll call?
I was like, who's something new?
Make it easy.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connor? Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Chairperson Berry?
Yes. All right, so we'll move on. Let's see. I don't have the, this is, you got a copy of this one. Thank you.
It says city commission on top.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
it
had
won't
me.
let me change them for some reason.
Okay, so would someone please introduce item 3A?
I'll introduce 3A to be read by title only.
Resolution of the Carver Heights, Montclair Area Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Leesburg, Florida, terminating an existing lease agreement for property located at 902 Talladega Street, Leesburg, Florida, 34748, and conveying the property to the tenant, subject to temporary covenants and restrictions on transfer, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
All right,
Second.
second. Well, I'll open the floor for discussion on this item. Are there any comments from the commission? Al, you want to give us a?
Well, I'll give you a quick debrief on both of the items. So both of the items, if I'm correct, the city owns 3 houses. Is that correct, Sandra? 3? Yeah, the CRA. Okay. CRA. Sandra went technical on me, but she is correct.
She's correct.
CRA owns 3 houses. These 2, and then the third house being the house / more of a property next to the resource center. So really the purpose of this is to unload the houses to the current tenants, so the city doesn't have to do maintenance and those type of things. We have received our money back and our investment back. We are walking away from a couple of dollars downstream, but in exchange, specifically with the Talladega house, we won't have any maintenance issues that are required. And the current resident is taking the house as is, so it helps them, it helps us. And the same for the house there on, I believe, Woodland is the same. Now, we did put some money into that house recently, but there are some other issues that the house has. So kind of the city's position is, okay, we'll do our contractual obligation with the lease, and then if we give you the house, then that gives the tenant, potentially they can shift their financing. So they'd be owners instead of renters. So then that would give them money to make the needed repairs. So both of these essentially takes the existing houses and transfers the ownership to the tenants.
Sandra?
Sandra Wilson, Director of Housing and Redevelopment. I just wanted to stand corrected. The city attorney has informed me that the city of Leesburg owns the homes. However, they are located in the CRA. That's why they had to come to the CRA for disposition.
Good deal. Does anyone have questions?
Are they just giving them to them? They purchase?
The lease was a lease purchase, so there's a few years left on the so yes, the answer is we're giving the house, and we're walking away from the last couple of years in the lease.
How long was the lease for?
Was it 15? And
Because that was the period that the restrictions were in place for the funding.
and what do we have left on both of the leases? I want to say 5 years on one.
No, the first lease went 15 years. The second one's in year 11.
So walking away from a couple of months and walking away from 4 years.
The second house in Woodland is 11 years, or the Talladega house 11 years?
I don't recall which is which.
I know it was the second one I read in the packet, so I assume it was Woodland.
Second one, that's
I assume it was
the
Woodland.
Woodlawn.
Yeah.
Are there any other comments from the commission?
Is the homeowner for Talladega? Are you the homeowner for Talladega? Congratulations.
So we'll have a roll call on item 3A.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Chairperson Burry?
Yes. Someone please introduce item 3B.
I'll introduce 3B to be read by title only.
Resolution of the Carver Heights, Montclair Area Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Leesburg, Florida, terminating an existing lease agreement for property located at 2142 Woodland Boulevard, Leesburg, Florida, 34748, and conveying the property to the tenant subject to temporary covenants and restrictions on transfer and providing an effective date.
For approval?
Second.
Discussion on this item? No one? And
I mean, I think we're being generous giving it up in year 11, but I also, as houses get older, there is more deferred maintenance and so forth. I'm more than happy to let somebody who's paid for 11 years go ahead and exercise their right under the circumstances to purchase it.
I have a question. Do you know if it's major work that's needed at the house?
Sandra, can you give that report? What else needs to be done at the Woodlawn House? I think we recently did, a roof repair and some doors and window repairs. And then some of the other stuff was more cosmetic stuff that was outside the lease. But I don't know
Right.
specifically.
I didn't bring the list with me, but to my recollection, there was some more interior. We did some of the electrical and plumbing that needed to be done in the home, but there were still some windows and doors and things that needed to be done in the home that we told her it would be her responsibility to do.
Did they get HVAC work done?
Yes,
That's
a
right.
new HVAC.
Yeah.
How many homes do the city / CRA still own after these two?
We will have
Just the
one.
And how far out is that one? Just curious.
That one we still own.
That's the one we still own by-
Resource Center. That-
Oh, that home.
Yeah, that one
Oh,
does, that
yeah,
one's
never mind.
empty.
Yeah,
That one's, well, while we're on that though, that one's empty. We are doing some repairs to it, and then we need to get that in inventory to either sell or lease that.
Something.
Yes.
All right. Any other comments?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
just for the sake of understanding. So I see it says the lease will continue for a few more years, so are they still obligated to make monthly payments as they were doing before?
No, the lease is over.
So they would just
This
get
is- this
conveyance
work-
after the $1?
Yes.
Okay,
That's it. Makes
Thank
it theirs, and they're then responsible for it.
all right, thank you.
Roll call.
Commissioner Connor? Commissioner Alderman?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell? Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Chairperson Burry?
Yes. We'll move on to roll call.
Commissioner Peterson?
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Berry?
I just have a question, and just in general, how do the homes become city property? How do we get to that? Just in general. I know each scenario
Yeah,
is
each
different,
scenario
but-
is different, so the overall answer is a code enforcement action.
Oh, okay.
So it's banged up so many liens against it that ultimately we foreclose on it, and then the ownership becomes ours. Typically, they're empty properties or abandoned properties that at the end of the day, we foreclose on.
And then how do the people know to rent it? I mean, how do we find out, how do we get tenants in the home? Is that something publicized or?
Well, both of these are before me, Commissioner.
Okay.
So these were leased out prior to me, so I don't know how those tenants were selected. Right now, the only areas that we're leasing is Miss Bus Simmons, the apartment complexes.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Connor? Do you have any comments? Roll call.
General comments.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yes, I want to say, I enjoyed myself at the CRA meeting, learned a lot. And my thing is, I want, as the CRA team and the city manager, to kind of sit down with us and see about updating that CRA plan, the things that we have done can we move them somewhere and bring something else in that might need to be done in the community for the next year? Not this budget year, but the next budget year. Is that possible?
Yeah, we had some of those discussions on other plans, and ultimately we opted not to update those. The Carver Heights CRA plan, I'm gonna say is slightly generic. You know, it covers blight, it covers redevelopment, it covers different aspects that talk about removal. So most of the projects that we've considered still fit underneath the plan. I mean, even if we go outside the box and say we invest, not that we're doing this, but just as an example, that the plan still works. Like, for example, if we were going to invest in the Susan Street recreational complex project, that would be one of the plans that fit underneath the existing plan. So I think your plan still functions. We had kicked around redoing a couple of the different plans, updating, like I think we talked about updating the downtown plan. I believe we talked about updating the Carver Heights plan. And typically those, you know, anywhere between 50 to 75 grand, because when we start updating those plans, I think then it is important you bring in a consultant, talk about different projects, different priorities. And so we really do need some outside help on that. If you have specific projects or issues or want to have a more detailed discussion, just let me know. We can set up a meeting and, yep. But
See whether or not they already
fit in the existing goals. And most likely they do. We really haven't struggled to identify projects with the broad brush strokes of the master plan.
And I want to know, how can we utilize the city communication department? Say if something we have going on, how do I get it to the communication department, like say the cleanup? I know that's going to be happening soon. Or anything that might be happening in the neighborhood that that area needs to know about?
Yep, send it to my office or directly to me. So we don't have a communications department per se. We kind of have Lakefront TV and we have my office. So the best way to disseminate information is to just get with my office, and then you know, if you want to get a spot on Lakefront TV or just get the information out on social media, our three biggest delivery points are Lakefront TV, social media, and the website. And the clearinghouse for all of that's my office.
All right.
Commissioner Alderman?
Yes, so thank you for the opportunity for the CRA conference. It was enlightening, as Ms. Connor has mentioned. It has sparked some ideas, but I'm going to contain them for right now. But I will be coming to you with some things. But one thing I would like to ask, or at least put on record for right now, is, you know, due to the enlightenment, I know there's things that have to be discussed in the public, and I'm okay with that. But I would like to, at some point, maybe put forth that maybe we can do what they call, I guess, some work meetings where nothing is going to get voted on, but can sit down or if it's just me and Ms. Connor, we can sit and they can record it, and we can discuss some ideas for the area. So I just want to put that out there, and it's open for you guys to be there as well. Just some things that we may want to do for the community. But just basically a think tank. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Commissioner Connell?
No, nothing.
Commissioner Reisman?
I just want to say congratulations to the 2 new homeowners. Secondly, I'm glad we got these off the city books. I personally don't think the city should be a landlord, so I think they will leave that to the private sector / the nonprofit sector. But big congratulations to 2 new homeowners. I think that's a very significant thing. I know when I bought my first home, it was very exciting. So congratulations.
Chairperson Burry?
Nothing tonight.
Move for adjournment.
We're adjourned. We'll call the meeting to order. This is City Commission meeting, Monday, October 28th. The time is 5:30. We've already had the invocation and the pledge at a previous meeting. So we'll move on to item 2, proclamations. We have none. Item 3 are presentations. We have none. Item 4 is public comments. This section is reserved for members of the public to bring up matters of concern or opportunities for praise. Issues brought up will not be discussed in detail at this meeting. Issues will either be referred to the proper staff or will be scheduled for consideration at a future City Commission meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Would you please give your name and your address when you come up?
Caroline Van Dyken, 120 Palmyra. First off, I just want to do a quick shout out to all the city employees who worked around the clock during and after the hurricane to get our city back to normal. Their dedication has not gone and their hard work has not gone unnoticed, and is greatly appreciated by the citizens and the businesses of Leesburg. So thank you. Palmer Park is also looking forward to another Halloween. You know, we get hit pretty hard down there with all the trick-or-treaters, but we also got hit pretty hard with the winds. And our trees and debris are stacking up, so I'm hoping that the debris efforts to clear out of there will continue like it has been, so it could be safe for the trick-or-treaters in the neighborhood. And I thank you always for the police presence that occurs during these times. It's a great opportunity for our police to build relationships with our youth in our neighborhood. Now, down to the real reason I'm here. The speeding cameras, back on that again. So I'm confused on how it got approved to begin with. I was going back between all the documentation that has occurred. It appears on April 8th it was under the consent agenda, and it was approved under the consent agenda without being pulled or discussed by any of the commissioners. In fact, the contract with Ultimate was signed on that same date, April 8th, that it was on the consent agenda. But 3 months later, it was brought back to the commission under resolutions to discuss the first reading and the second reading. The first reading was on July 8th. The second reading was on July 22nd. And maybe I just don't understand how all those processes work. I've never held an office, but I thought we were supposed to bring it up under the resolutions or the first reading, the second reading, and then go for approval of contract, and then the contract is signed. So I'm not really sure how we got into this to begin with, and maybe the lawyer can look into this. Another opportunity, or another thing I wanted to bring up, this is a burden on the taxpayers. The expenses are ranging over $200,000 a year, and I'm being conservative on those figures. Then we have to spend an additional $18 a citation, and now tonight you're bringing up the fact that we're going to hire the hearing officer is already hired, but you're going to add to her caseload, meaning we're going to have to pay her more to handle this situation. Another thing I want to discuss is the zone times. Although they're clearly stated that the zone times are 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after school starts, but there's no zone times as far as when the speed limit is reduced, as far as the flashing light, who monitors that the flashing light is synced with the cameras, and they both have internal digital clocks, and as you know, digital clocks get off. So there could be a possibility where 30-second difference between the flashing light and the camera systems could accuse a citizen of wrongdoing. And it falls on the burden of the citizen to prove otherwise. I have a lot more, but my 3 minutes is up, and I promise you, I rehearsed this, and it was 3 minutes, and I still have 2 pages left, so maybe I should have set my timer. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Hi, Ray Hayden, 35121 Dennis Road, Leesburg. Because you brought up the traffic light thing, the Lee Street School, what's the speed limit, 30? 15. Oh, 15? Well, no, but what is, from 25 to 15, it's like there's a curve in that street, and it's like a blink of an eye. And Lisa told me about it, or my wife Lisa told me about it, and I wanted to see it for myself. And there was no flashing light going on, and there was nothing. We didn't get hit by the speed thing or whatever, but it was like that's going to be a rough one. That's going to be a hard situation there. So just whatever it is with that Lee Street School with that one, because of the curve and all that, and it's just like bam, you're there. That's like there was no warning in advance or anything. So just if somebody looks into that, make sure that it's cleaned up so that people don't get whacked improperly. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, my name is Trelawney Montu, and I live at 816 Georgia Avenue. And I'm here to present my personal property that has been damaged from the storm. As far as the City of Leesburg Public Works not taking care of the situation that I've been having with flooding. I have a USB with videos and with pictures on it, and I have some packets.
If you would, Ms. Wright, right?
Yes.
Just give me all that information.
Sure.
And what we'll do, I'm taking this as you're filing a formal claim against the
Yes.
city. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna disseminate this to our risk manager.
Okay.
Her name is Lisa Earl. She'll file the claim, and you will hear from her tomorrow,
Okay.
okay?
This too.
So what we'll do is, so we'll turn all this over. Do you have a copy of that? Or is that your only copy?
Yes, I have copies
Okay,
of my
so you're
phone.
trusting me with that?
Yes.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give this to Lisa Earl. What she does is she files the claim with our insurance company, and the insurance company then reviews it, and they'll make a determination as to whether the city has liability in the situation.
Okay. Well, I have some more stuff for you.
Okay, then, yep, everything you got, just, this will all be part of the claim, and Lisa will get you a call tomorrow, let you know the status of that you know it was filed. And it'll take probably a couple weeks for the insurance company to review all the information and make a determination.
Okay, so you would have my phone number?
I got it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing no public comment, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Routine items are placed on the consent agenda to expedite the meeting. If the staff or commission wish to discuss any item, the procedure is as follows. 1, to pull the item or items from the consent agenda. 2, vote on the remaining items with 1 roll call vote. And 3, discuss each pulled item and vote by roll call. Are there any items anyone would like to pull? Nothing there? Nothing there? Y'all good, Jay?
I'll make a motion to approve all items.
Second. Roll call?
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Consent. We're moving on to 6. There it is. We'll move on to item 6, which is public hearings and non-routine items. 6A, there is second reading of ordinances. We have none. So would someone please introduce 6B1?
I'll introduce 6B1 to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, establishing the Orange Bend Community Development District pursuant to Chapter 190 Florida statutes, providing for authority and power of the district, providing for the Board of Supervisors of the district, providing for the district budget, providing for functions of the district, providing for miscellaneous provisions, and providing an effective date.
For approval?
Second.
Oh, it's a first reading, sorry.
It's a first reading, yeah. So, Dan, would you come up and give us a quick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dan Miller, Planning and Zoning. This is a request to establish the Orange Bend Community Development District. This will serve the Orange Bend area, generally located on County Road 44 and south of 473. The project consists, I believe, of approximately 640 acres. Just as a reminder, CDDs are provided for under Florida Statute Chapter 190. Their method of creating and funding special purpose districts. CDD is a special purpose district that will manage, deliver, and finance basic community development services. Those services will include construction and operation of the water, wastewater, roads, bridges, environmental and conservation areas, also parks, schools, and security infrastructure and services. Each CDC is individual. They can choose what they wish to fund or not. Once they are created, they are limited to specific geographical areas. They cannot encumber debt to the local government. They have no zoning or police powers. The city currently has several CDDs in place, including Arlington Ridge, the villages of West Lake, Terra Oaks, and County Road 33 CDD, among others. Mr. Jared Earlywine of the law firm Cutac Rock of Tallahassee is here to answer any other questions that you may have, sir.
All right. Does anyone have questions regarding this? Grant, do we need to hear from the petitioner?
You can invite him if you'd like to.
If you'd like to come up and
We're available for questions, but if you don't have any, we're happy to still let y'all do business. Thank you so much.
okay, all right, perfect. Do we have any public comment? Sure.
Good evening. Ray Hayden, 35121 Dennis Road, Leesburg. My neighbors' concerns about Orange Bend Ranch. We have astronomy enthusiasts in our community who are concerned about the Orange Bend Ranch not being required to comply with City of Leesburg's dark sky lighting standards. We understand that the Orange Bend Ranch parcels were annexed prior to Leesburg adopting the dark sky standards. However, we believe this is in everyone's best interest for Orange Bend Ranch to comply with the updated standards so that we, along with new homeowners who will be residing at Orange Bend Ranch, can continue to enjoy stargazing. Please note that a Forester group had advised that they are exploring their options regarding the dark sky lighting, but we would appreciate, being in the sensitive area that it is, that be complied with to the current standard. The neighbors are concerned about the broad language surrounding rentals from the draft HOA documents. We do not want Orange Bend Ranch to become a haven for corporate rentals. Neither Section 12.22 nor any other restriction in this declaration shall be construed to impose, 1, a limit of total homes in Orange Bend Ranch which can be leased to a third party, 2, a requirement that the record title owner of a home reside in the home as a primary or secondary residence, or 3, a requirement that the record title title owner of a home occupy the home for a specified period of time before such titled owner is permitted to rent the home to a third party. Non-exclusive use. Prior to the community completion date, the declarant thereafter, the association, and thereafter, the association has the right at any and all times and from time to time to further additionally provide to make the common areas available to other individuals, persons, firms, or corporations as it deems appropriate. We don't understand the implications of making the, quote, the common areas available to other individuals, persons, firms, or corporations as it deems appropriate, end quote. The association shall be solely responsible for and this is important, the association shall solely be responsible for the drainage system, facilities which may comprise the swales, pipes be comprised of swales, pipes, pumps, retention, detention slopes, easements, or other. Our observations, annex property for Leesburg has typically taken over the surface water management by creating a special taxing district. Given Orange Bend Ranch's impact on the wetlands of the Emerald Marsh Rural Protection Area, the neighbors would prefer to have Leesburg assume the surface water management and wetlands maintenance as you have in other communities. Thank you very much.
No, just to respond to this question.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, and then I have direct questions. My name is Lisa Hayden. I live at 35121 Dennis Road in Leesburg. Regarding the Orange Bend Ranch CDD, our neighbors all agree this is a done deal, and we want to be really good neighbors. I've reached out to Shelley. I wish I could pronounce her last name at 4-Star. She's been absolutely lovely, and we hope to have a good relationship with them. But I was wondering, maybe Mr. Miller can expand on why does Orange Bend Ranch need to be a CDD? I'm really not familiar with it. And in Section 5 of the actual ordinance, it says that there can be expansion. Under what circumstances would there be expansion? Would it be more land purchased? And why is the area east of County Road 44 and north of Post Street. Why is that not in the CDD, if I'm reading this correctly? And I may not be. So those are pretty much my questions.
If I may.
Please.
Yeah. So thank you all so much. Again, my name is Jarrett Earlywine. I'm with QTAC Rock. I'm just happy to answer a couple of questions for you. Some of the questions that came up are sort of project related, development related. So, for example, with respect to the HOA documents and how those dictate what's going on with specific homes and things like that, that's really doesn't have a lot to do with our CDD petition. The CDD is sort of an alternative structure to a homeowners association. It's sort of like a HOA that can do more things. For one thing, it can go out and finance public infrastructure, including the drainage system. We typically do the drainage system, the utilities. We'll turn those utilities over to you guys for ownership and operation. And the CDD typically retains the drainage structure as opposed to you all having to put in a special taxing district. That's what the CDD is. And so the good news, and I think there may be a conflict in that HOA declaration. I'll go back and talk to 4-Star about it. But the CDD would actually be the ownership and operation entity. And it's really good at that because it can get FEMA funding, statewide mutual aid. So if there's a big storm that comes through, I think we've seen some of those recently, right? The city can actually get FEMA. It also can collect on the tax roll. It's got sovereign immunity protection, so it's a much more robust operation and maintenance entity to take care of storm events. With respect to the expansion parcel that you're asking about, I think there's a piece that's largely conservation. I don't know that 4-Star quite owns it yet, and that's why we didn't put it in the petition. But the idea is that we've identified it as a future expansion parcel, not to put homes on it, but to keep it in conservation owned by a government entity, which is exactly why you have a CDD to take care of those areas. Bear in mind, too, that the CDD's costs and whatnot are only paid by that neighborhood. So it's going to be funded by the residents of Orange Bend and not the folks, I don't know where you all live, but it wouldn't be you guys, obviously. So I think that answers some of the questions. Am I missing one?
Well, just that one little area, that bottom area there, the last one.
Here, do you mind if I point that out to you? Yeah.
That one is just not on the little
It's
drawn
specifically
map.
this one here, and they have leveled most of those trees already.
That's not in your the map. There's a map about 2 pages after this one in the packet. If you
Just for clarification.
right there.
The
Yeah, there you go.
So,
Yeah, there it is.
So on that map, which is your CDD, it doesn't include anything on the east side.
Correct.
I guess that technically.
Yeah, it is east side.
It's kind of the east side of a weird road that's supposed to be.
I wish I had an answer on that. Maybe Dan or you all know the answer in terms of what's going on with the development status there. I don't know if 4-Star owns it. It's not part of our CD petition.
Originally, I think they do own it, because that's one alt key. I don't know how they could have bought part of an alt key. It's the same, but it was originally like a municipal, maybe commercial, like for multifamily. Was that, yeah?
If it's multifamily or commercial, it's probably why it's excluded. But we can get you in touch with Shelley, and she would know probably off the top of her head.
We've seen it both ways.
Yeah, yeah.
So
HOA, yes,
not to
ma'am.
interrupt you, but you're not at the mic. So
Yeah, sorry.
the question is, why wasn't that in there? And really, this is first reading, so we'll look into your question. We'll get it squared away for second reading. And the short answer is either A, it's a Scribner's error, and the matches aren't mapping, or B, they're going to bring it back at a different time in their phasing. So they'll probably expand the CDD as they develop the property. So we'll get clarification for that by second reading.
Okay. Do you have any other questions for me?
Any other questions?
I did have one, maybe a question for Dan more than that, but on the low-level lighting, can that be added at this point?
Oh, yeah.
The way to add the dark sky standards to this PUD, Mr. Connell, would be to reopen the PUD. The other way to do it is we have been planning for some time, once the comp plan is adopted this December, I think it is, to begin work on our land development regulations. That's where we intend to put the landscaping requirements, the dark sky requirements, those types of requirements that we've been putting in our PUDs. We have never adopted a dark sky standard. We've only put them in the PUDs. But we do intend to place that within our land development regulations. So if we place that in the land development regulations, then it would seem to me that because it's not addressed in some of the PUDs, those PUDs would be impacted because where the PUD is silent, you fall back to the land development regulations. So then it would apply. So it's coming is the answer to that.
Would your clients be open to do that?
We can ask him. I mean, I think that, again, the development approvals are separate and apart from the CDD petition.
Sure,
The
I
city's
understand
but
that.
We can certainly ask that question
Thanks.
as well. Yes, sir.
If you don't mind.
I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to. Thank you all again.
Again, this was a first reading. We'll have second reading. Do we know?
November 12th.
November the 12th will be the second reading. All right. We'll move on to item 6, which is non-routine items. Would someone please introduce 6C1?
I'll introduce 6C1A to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute the Grid IQ separation agreement with GE Vernova and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Okay, discussion on this. I will have to admit, in reading the packet, it was a little bit over my pay grade. So
Man, I thought that
I'm going to
was
need
one of- I
a
thought that
little
was one of the-
explanation, Tito.
I thought that was one of the best transmittals I've written in some time. So here, I'll give you a quick debrief. And I started out with this is probably one of the most significant things that we've done all year. And essentially, this concept to move out of the GE contract really kind of is the bookend now on the smart grid system, which the city endeavored to enter back in, I believe it was November of 2011. And then this would put an end to the GE contract and kind of usher in a new way for the city to monitor and issue all our metering associated with the electric department. So with that, let me just give you a brief history and then talk some nuts and bolts with you. So in 2011, the city endeavored to kind of get into the 21st century, if you will, with respect to metering and our electric department. And kind of at that time frame, 10 years into the new century, the electric industry was going into some changes and leaving, if you will, the old analog ways. So when you went out and you looked at your meter and you saw the thing spinning with the dials to what practically every utility has these days is an AMI type of meter, an automated meter. When we endeavored into this project with GE, better known as Smart Grid, we ultimately tried to do several different things. We issued debt in $10 million. We got a $10 million grant from the federal government. We made system improvements. And then we tried to do several attempts of automating our electric system, from the meter reading concepts to different system improvements to demand side management, both on a wholesale level with major customers and demand management with individual residential customers. There were many things about the GE contract that worked that we need to continue doing, which is what this concept contemplates. And that's essentially keeping our current AMI grid, if you will, in place. That's keeping the same type of meters, the same type of components, the same type of softwares, so that we can seamlessly change from GE to Itron. There is this seamless integration because Itron is a subcontractor of GE. When we endeavored into this back in 2011, again, there were some other concepts that didn't work. By the time I was hired with the city, we had identified what was working and what wasn't working. And by the date in your packet, April 2014, we got back with GE and we said, these type of programs aren't working. Most of that was associated with the demand side, wholesale stuff with the big customers, Publix, Walmart, those customers where we had a problem with our all requirements partners in FMPA. And the demand side program at that time also was not going to be able to spread out to the residential component with our customer base. And that was making some of the integration more difficult for the regular type of AMI services that we needed. So we modified the contract about 3 years after the original one, and that gave us the original term of December 12/31/2026 when the GE contract ends. Without getting more in depth at this time, we are now almost completely through that almost 15-year term. And earlier this year, GE gave us notice that they wanted to end the contract with us. And that was if we could end the contract early, GE would go along with that. Or, if we had to go to term, then GE put us on notice that after the term of the contract, December 26th, they would no longer service us. I think there are many reasons that we don't know why GE made this determination, but I think in short, it comes down to one thing. I don't think GE wanted to be in the AMI business with municipal electric utilities any longer. So with that notice, I put together a team that was led by Tino Anthony, our IT director. He worked with Brad Chase, our electric director, as well as Jim Williams. The metering component of all of our utilities really has a tertiary departmental effect on that department, which in this case, electric, weaved in with our software components in IT, and then back to finance for the billing component. So what we sought to do when GE gave us that notice is we saw this as an opportunity to hopefully save money, but we also wanted to make it as seamless integration as possible. And we also knew that if we wrote out the term, meaning stayed with GE through the end of the contract, we'd have three big unknowns: costs. We also didn't know what impacts that would have on our software network. So if we weren't with a compatible GE system, we knew that that would mean that we would have to change out softwares, and we'd have a longer, harder, non-seamless integration for our customers as well as our employees. And third, we really wanted to avoid a system where we would have to be affected by both A and B. So with that, kind of the initial thought was, well, if we can work with Itron, who does a lot of the major AMI components of the metering, that could be beneficial for us. So because they were a subcontractor of GE, we had to get GE permission. That took some time. And ultimately, we got it to a point to where we have the two resolutions that are now before you. This initial resolution is a simple resolution that effectively ends the GE contract once we become hooked into Itron. This process, we think, will take about 9 to 12 months. There's a lot of software work that needs to go on with Itron to convert GE stuff into Itron stuff, which then is compatible with our systems. For that initial changeover, the packet has a scope of services that outlines in IT talk what things need to occur and how much Itron is charging for that. So roughly that cost is $840,000. So really the only negative, if there even is one in this, is for this fiscal year 25, the utility has about an $840,000 initial cost that we'll need to work through this fiscal year to help us with the transition. There are benchmarks in that scope of service work, and as we reach certain benchmarks, then Itron wants a certain payment. All the while, we need to continue to pay GE our monthly contract costs so that by the time we get, hopefully the target date is September 25, GE contract will then be null and void as this resolution reads. And the cost that GE is charging us to end early is actually zero. That took some negotiation. A lot of credit there should go to Tino, but I think we effectively got a reasonable deal from GE that essentially holds our contract in place while we're fixing up our new network mesh with Itron. Then when the conversion is complete, which again we anticipate for September 26, the GE contract is officially ended, and the new Itron contract, which is your next item on the agenda, comes in place. So that is a 7-year contract with Itron to provide us AMI services, and ostensibly it will be seamless for the customers. That's the goal. So the customers on their side hopefully don't notice any type of difference on our side. Tino and his folks will be doing a lot of computer work with Itron during the scope of service work to shift over some things, make sure everything works, and in September, hopefully we flip the switch and we're now Itron. The big win in this situation is the cost is dramatically different. With GE, roughly, we've been paying about $1.5 million a year. If you divide that by customer base down just to kind of get a unit cost, we're paying about $4.80 per read per meter per month. With the new Itron cost, that cost will be $160 for the first, say, 18 or 26 months, and then once the integration, $840,000 is out, then that number drops again to about $1.40 per reader per month. So if you go back and you compare where we were in 2011 with an analog system of about 68 cents a reader read, and then we moved to about $1.40 a meter read over the last 15 years-ish, that's about a 6% increase. So really, when you look at changing from analog to the new AMI way with Itron, that 6% increase is about an industry standard. So the financial part was really summed up in this Excel spreadsheet, which is in your packet. And really the comparison purposes here is, well, what would it cost? Remember the points that I started out with. Why do we want to stay with Itron and consider this a sole source? Because we want a seamless integration. We don't want to have additional costs for IT and different software. And we don't know what complications both the A and B will provide us. We know, or at least very, very hopeful, that with that Itron, it's seamless. So in that specific manner, it's sole source. That justification is also in your packet. So all things being equal, then, if we stayed with GE through the term of the contract, what this spreadsheet sets out is their incremental cost for fiscal year 24, 25, and 26 was $1.43 million, $1.478 million, and $1.52 million. If you break that down on a monthly basis from this fiscal year to fiscal year 27, and specifically that's first quarter 27, so this chart ends December 26th, that's December 2026, we would have spent $3.488 million with GE. So this fiscal year, while the chart says we might go over about $672,000 with Itron, that's all of that is the integration cost. So that is an additional cost to this fiscal year. Next fiscal year, we'll still have to pay one more integration part, but we're hoping, and this chart actually shows it by November, so it's somewhere in the fall, we're hoping to shift over, pay that last integration number, and then what you see as your chart shows, you decrease from about $123,000 a month to $41,000 a month in terms of what it costs to read the meters. So long story short, at that rate, so the column compares GE, October 24 to December 26, $3.488 million. Itron costs, all in, including the $1 million up front, is $1.25 million. So that's a savings of $2.2 million. So while our costs jump up in the short term, one quarter into fiscal year 27, you recoup all of that back. And then moving forward, you see the savings. It's about the $1.5 million to a flat $464,000 a year. So financially, it makes sense. Network, it makes sense. And obviously, we recommend the passage of this resolution, which ends the GE contract once we're hot, if you will, with Itron, and then the next item is the Itron contract for 7 years.
Questions for Al? Anybody got any? Okay.
Before you vote, yes. I was also say to not be remiss, we also had this conversation in detail with the Electric Advisory Board at their last meeting, and they had 4 members present, and they're also recommending the adoption of the process that I just explained to you by a vote of 4-0, and 1 member was absent.
Excellent. Okay. So we'll take a vote on 6C1A first, and then we'll introduce the second and talk about that, okay? So this is a roll call on 6C1A.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Would someone please introduce 6C1B?
I'll introduce 6C1B to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute the AMI Advanced Metering Infrastructure Agreement with Itron and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion. Go ahead.
Yeah, just everything I just said, ditto. But now let me talk a little bit about that lingering $840,000. Right now, the electric department is right kind of on their number as far as their cash reserve requirement, kind of hanging out around $7 million, and Brandy's looking at a face. So she probably has data that I haven't seen yet. But the hurricane number's in there too. So, but the hurricane will be out $2 million and then hopefully in $2 million, and that's our guess. So excluding the hurricane conversation, the electric department's kind of nip and tuck. We finished up the last 2 months of the fiscal year of August and September pretty strong with reasonable over recoveries. So that's a good position to be in. Perhaps that helps us come April, because we did talk about an extra 50-cent increase in the power cost adjustment, but that time will come. And no determination here, but this is really just a cash level flow. For now, we'll be moving with the recommendation that electric pays these one-stop kind of target goals out of electric. If the electric numbers start looking a little goofy, we'll be back to you with different ways to potentially pay for this. My guess would probably be go to the general fund or other places where so it's really just a matter of shifting cash around to make the books look good. And in all honesty, we're just going to have to take that by a month approach. But I did want to put you on notice. This is just this concept. Tino and his folks and Brad and his folks really deserve a lot of credit for putting this together. And B, long-term, short long-term, this is going to be very beneficial to the electric department, because it basically keeps about an extra $1 million in that fund. And that $1 million, really equates to probably like a 3% rate type of increase in that ballpark. So if we needed a 5% rate increase, maybe now it can be 2. And so having this ahead of the December 26th GE deadline is a really good tool. So as we move into this fiscal year beyond the first quarter, we'll have to manage that cash, but we'll report to you accordingly.
Questions for Al?
Just a comment. I think I'm clear. The good news is you're paying it over time. You're paying it in a monthly payment. It's not a lump sum, the 848.
Right. It's in that spreadsheet.
Right.
It lays out
right.
the months, and they're like 800 payments at 84,000 or 168,000. Basically, we took that $840,000 number, divided it by whatever 84 into 10 payments, roughly. And depending on what goal it's either a 1-goal payment or a 2-goal payment of 84,000. And so when we hit those goals, so we spread at least that lump sum out over the term. And I honestly, I wouldn't say weave it into the contract and throw interest on it. I think it's best to get that paid and then get to the savings as quick as we can.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. I'm just glad we started early on this. Versus waiting until 26, that would have been interesting. But we would have needed GE for a little bit longer if we had waited. I'm complimenting you. I'm complimenting you and staff.
Where we would have been is probably in the same boat. Probably more starting now, but it would have started with a lot of work in the procurement department with electric and IT, putting together a very convoluted, difficult RFP process that probably would have taken us probably 3 to 6 months to write, and then get it out with a series of RAIs, and it would have been a very complex and difficult bid process that would have taken pretty much right up to the December 26th timeframe.
And we would have had almost the same shortfalls. We would have had to pay GE and pay Itron.
You would have had, well, yeah, if you went to the end of the contract, you
would need
you'd
their
have
help,
a
so you'd be
$3.4
paying them.
million payment
Right.
through the end of that term.
Right.
Probably would have needed some consulting help with weaving stuff out and figuring out integration stuff. So honestly, I think we saved a lot of money, and it will be seamless for our customers.
Thank you for summarizing that well, because I read it, Jimmy, and I called Al for the 5-minute synopsis after I read it.
I thought I was really clear.
You were
I'd
really
gotta
clear,
pay
Al, but
attention.
I just don't speak that language. You know? Yeah. So, any other questions? Okay, we'll have a roll call. Do we accept public comment on? Is that it?
Yeah, I think.
Okay, we'll have some public comment.
Caroline, 120 Palmora. I was here in 2011. I was here in 2010 when all this discussion began with GE, and I want to appreciate Al for giving us that recap. He came in and he had to handle this. He wasn't here when all this was brought forward with GE and the contracts and the battles. And basically, GE was a carpet salesman that came in and sold us bad carpet. The contract was awful. We spent a lot of money with them. I am glad to see them out the door for good. My concern is Itron. Itron and GE do have a pretty tight partnership. I mean, like you said, they are a subcontractor. I'm not so sure they're not one and the same, and it's not GE just renamed under another company. And that's my concern, because we'll just be back in the same boat again. And as far as contracts and stuff, we do have an attorney that can look that over. But like I said, we had an attorney previous that looked over contract, but it's still up to the commissioners on whether or not to approve those contracts. So I just want you to, I know you said the integration, we do have the smart meters. I know there's other companies out there that can integrate with the smart meters. Again, it is kind of all above our heads. It is, we have to rely on the IT people and the electric people, and I understand that. But at the same time, I just want to caution that this is how we got in the mess to begin with GE, and to really look back at maybe some of those meetings in 2011 when we were having these big discussions. Thank you.
Yeah, let me just, and I appreciate Ms. Van Dyken's comments. It was a difficult time for the city, but I don't want to belabor this or get drilled down into overly detail. But there was a lot of blame that needs to go around in terms of how we got into what we called smart grid. And a lot of it, honestly, was internal. And so that's the biggest reason I bring this up is relationship between GE and Itron. Itron is not GE, okay? They are separate entities. And actually, that relationship, Itron and GE, on a high level, okay? So technically, there may be some things I'm wrong with, but at a high level, for terms of everybody understanding, Itron was a company that we brought on at the time called Silver Springs. Silver Springs was an added component that at the time the electric department wanted to bring in to the GE components. Remember, when we were doing smart grid, we were doing a bunch of different stuff. We were doing load management, again, on the high side and the low side. We were trying to do a bunch of different things, and then we really started adding into GE's bucket. And so the electric department wanted Silver Springs to come in to put a chip in the GE meter that did a whole bunch of stuff that I think, in all honesty, if you pin GE down, they'll say that made our job crazy hard. And probably that relationship is probably part of the reason why GE said, okay, we're good. But bringing in that company, Silver Springs, who's now Itron, was really the heartbeat of the part that worked, ironically. And that was, we have a really good AMI electric metering system. We don't do rollouts anymore. That's an industry standard. So what does that mean? That means to turn on or turn off your electric, back in 2011, we had to, quote unquote, roll a truck. So that meant a service tech would have to go out, turn on or turn off your meter. when your power was out in the old days, we didn't know your power was out. You had to call in. And so the modern day smart meter with automatic turn on, turn offs, automatic report of tampering, automatic report of consumption and usage, that's really the core of what Silver Springs brought that worked, but made GE's job harder. And at the end of the day, Silver Spring is now out of the business and they turned into Itron. So we basically went to that sub-consultant of GE on the part of the system that works, which is the AMI metering. So I don't want to complicate that statement, but I think it's important to note that Smart Grid was a difficult decision for the city. I will admit it didn't provide everything that we wanted. And at the end of the day, I think we got the system working where it wants. And come fiscal year 27, we will see significant savings.
I just have a question because I thought that's what
Come to the mic, please.
I thought that's what Smart Grid did too. Like that was my understanding of Smart Grid, so they didn't have to roll a truck and they didn't have to do anything. But then the storm came, the hurricane came, and then back in our business area, we didn't have power to our building. But then I started walking around, everybody else had power, and then I kept calling the Smart Grid thing, and you call the thing, but it's not a response. It's just you put your information in with your electric bill. So I put our exact account number for our business, and nobody would ever show up. I only got a response to get somebody to come out, and I knew what was wrong because I walked out and looked at the transformer, and two of the little phases, we have 3 phases going into the building, one was completely charred and one was almost charred, so I knew what was wrong. And so I kept being patient because, everybody was out power, and I was just being patient about it. Well, finally, 6 days and our business was down, and I supply a hospital. I'm a hospital supplier, and I'm to the point where I had prepared to be without power for so long, but at this point I was reaching my end of what I had prepared for. And it wasn't until I had ran into Park and Rec that was clearing some trees that had been down that a person had crashed into on Industrial Street. And they were so nice and friendly. And I said, hey, I don't want to be a burden, but my power's down. I've been calling it in. And I thought that's the whole part of the smart meters. They're supposed to know I don't have any power at my business. But apparently that wasn't the case. And it wasn't until somebody on Park and Rec generously called somebody at the electric department, and it was taken care of that day, which I greatly appreciate, whoever that was. Thank you. But again, what happened there? So
We knew you didn't have power.
you did?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any other comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Moving on to item 7, which are informational reports. There were financials reported as of August of 24. Any questions with regard to them?
Yes, sir.
Y'all are with it? Okay. How about city attorney items in number 8?
Just real quickly, at the last meeting, there was a discussion about the mural item and whether or not the Public Art Committee was an advisory-only committee or whether they had final decision-making authority. Looked at what we have. They are an advisory recommendation board only. They do not have any final decision-making authority, so I just wanted to clarify that for everybody.
Thank you, Karen. City manager items.
No matters.
No matters. Okay. Roll call.
Commissioner Connell?
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Reisman?
Couple things. I want to thank the Leesburg Special Events Department for putting on a great event downtown. I feel like there was thousands of people down here for the trick or treat on Main Street. It went really well. And then the Leesburg Recreation Department put on a very, I'll say scary, haunted house at Moat Morris on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. So that was really exciting. And then just to make people aware, Lakefront TV did a new series called Inside Leesburg. Our very own city manager and planning and zoning director gave a pretty good in-depth explanation about our growth, and a lot of people submitted questions and they answered those questions, so I think that was great. November 2nd is the chili cook-off for the Leesburg Chamber. Hope to see you guys all out there. November 8th is the downtown Leesburg, Discover Leesburg downtown. And then November 9th is our Veterans Parade. So hope to see you guys all out there and everyone in our community. That'll be it for me.
Mr. Peterson?
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes, I'd like to say kudos to District 1. This Saturday, we had community events throughout the city. The Resource Center gave out food. The fraternity organization, Kappas, and the sorority Deltas, as well as other organizations that joined as volunteering. Then they also had food at CWC that they fed. I don't know how many, but I understand it was several through the line. And the Charmettes, another organization that was on Pine Street that was giving donations to cancer survivors, patients that need clothing, and that was very successful. So I'm very proud to see the community moving for District 1 and people getting involved, and let's see more of that. Thank you. Oh, and kudos to our lunch that was given by the city to the department. That was great. I was very proud to sit along and eat and listen to the employees discuss and share their stories for Hurricane Milton. And I want to say thank you to our administrator, our leaders, for grilling and providing food and a nice push and a morale for the city employees. Thank you.
Yeah, that was excellent.
Mayor Berry?
Nothing tonight.
Motion to adjourn.
Got a second? We're done.